Today is Friday, January 20th. The sun has gone into Aquarius. The moon is still in Capricorn. We're about to have a new moon tomorrow. This is going to be fun. Our first Sowing Fire podcast, back in action. We good? Lighting good? Cool. When Isadora started to tell me the importance of a podcast, I was pretty resistant about it. And the reason that I was pretty resistant is because I like to be a quiet, private Scorpio. And if we started to get this message out here on louder levels and bigger level ups, I knew that I would have to become more transparent. And in that transparency, it would be vulnerability. How can I teach people how to be vulnerable to life, how to be vulnerable and receptive to the blessings that show up for them, the things they want to align to, if I myself do not go through these level ups in my personal life? And so for a few of you, you know that we used to have the TEC call. And we had the TEC call for quite some time. Every Thursday evening, I would be there. Isadora would be there. Every Thursday evening for years and years and years. And so when I decided to stop the TEC calls, I was going through my own things, and I didn't want that. I felt like enough of me had been exposed. I didn't want to put anything else out there. And so we took off for a few years and got serious about this business and got serious about apprenticeships and sessions and all that good stuff. And then COVID hits. The great Corona. Bless. And then there were people that needed help, and I was going from waking up to maybe 6 to 10 texts in a morning to 20 to 30 to 50. And so we did what we could during that time. And then always, there was a giant calling to go deeper, to get louder, to spread that message further. For the last several years, you have heard me talk about writing these books. That is happening right now at this point in my life. For the last few years, you saw us get serious about our plant medicine journeys. That is still happening and begins in the springtime. For the last couple of years, we've been doing all that we can to help people. And now, at this time, just before this Aquarius new moon, it is time to relaunch this Sowing Fire podcast, because what better way to get these messages out here? So feel free to share them. Feel free to participate. Feel free to send in your ideas, your questions, something that you would like to hear more spoken on. This is the Sowing Fire podcast, Season 3, Episode 1, titled The Beginning. The beginning. When a thing is birthed into this world, into this creation. The beginning. The beginning is a seed. The beginning is a fetus. The beginning is an egg. The beginning is a big giant zero. The beginning is the dragon that sits on that world egg. The beginning is the moment that you first remembered separation. The beginning is the beginning is the beginning is the beginning. The beginning is when you decide that you first took that first step. The beginning is when you decided, I gotta make a change. The beginning is what happens after you decide to go through that doorway of a death. You have a rebirth, and therein is a new beginning. What does your beginning look like? What's the first memories that you have about this life? What are memories that you hold about previous lifetimes? What does your beginning look like? How were you raised? Who raised you? Where were you raised? What were the nights like where you come from? What were your morning times like? Who did you like to sit and watch the sunrise with? What does your beginning look like? Who did you grow up with? Who taught you life lessons? Who gave you your stories of adopted conditions? What does your beginning look like? How did you grow up? What's the first memory you have of feeling loved? What's the first memory you have of feeling humiliated? What do those beginnings look like? What's the beginning of your romantic life? Was your first boyfriend, your first girlfriend like? Was your first marriage like? What's your last marriage taught you? What's your idea of forever, not forever? What are your beginnings? What's the beginning of your professional career? How did you get there? Who helped you? What's the beginning of you becoming an adult? How have you grown? What conditions do you still hold on to? What stories do you still live by? What's that beginning? What's the beginning of your suffering? When's the first time that you realize this is what suffering is? What's the beginning of your joy? When did you realize, ooh, this is what happy feels like? What's your beginning? How were you raised? Who were you raised? What lessons did you gain? What conditions did you outgrow? What conditions do you still hold on to? I'm going to keep asking you that because I want you to think about it. And if you get a ooh feeling, I don't want to go near that, then I can only encourage you. Now is the most perfect time for you to do so. Your beginnings. Our beginnings are what began the whole classroom of shaping us into who we are in this moment. Our beginnings will teach us how we decide to walk in this life, how we decide to live. Our beginnings will give us opportunities to make changes on those teachings. We good? We good on time? Any questions? Okay. So your beginnings are doorways that brought you eventually to a death, that brought you eventually to a rebirth, and thus the beautiful spiral continues. What have your beginnings looked like for you? You could have a beginning right now. You could have a beginning of, I've decided to make changes in my life. I've decided to do things differently. I've decided that I will no longer accept what I have been accepting. I've decided to teach people in better ways how to treat me by how I choose to treat me. What does this beginning look like for you? Right now, you could have a new beginning and deciding to take better care of your body. Right now, you could have a new beginning of deciding to perceive whatever experience of dis-ease you are going through, deciding to perceive it differently so that you can have a different reality from it. That's a beginning. Right now, you can decide to be kinder to yourself. Right now, you can decide to only allow people who treat you well into your world or allow you closer. Right now can be the beginning of you deciding that this next thing is your purpose. And this next thing is what you deserve to go off in the direction of. Take steps into. Do it faithfully, even if you don't know how. What is your new beginning? Now we just started this new year. The Gregorian calendar says we just started a new year. And so that can be a new beginning. And so what does this moment look like? What does this new beginning look like for you? Sometimes to have a new beginning, we have to take a deep breath or several deep breaths in order to take that first step. That's okay. Nobody ever said you had to take a first step not feeling fear. It's perfectly okay and perfectly typical to take a step in courage while still feeling fear. That can be a new beginning. What kind of new beginning do you want to bring into your world right now? What things would you like to diverge from? What things would you like to give a proper memorial in death to? What things would you like to take new steps towards whilst outgrowing old conditions? What's your new beginning? We have this new moon in Aquarius tomorrow. New moon in Aquarius. The sun will be in Aquarius. The moon will be in Aquarius. It's a super Aquarian time. And Aquarius is all about that lightning medicine, that big transformation. So if you've been waiting for that moment to do that thing, I can tell you that tomorrow, Saturday, the 21st of January, 2023, is the most perfect time for you to start that new beginning. What is your new beginning? What have you had enough of? What are you tired of? What are you in the dead set middle of winter, ready to not bring into the spring? Ready to leave by the wayside? Remember, trash takes itself out. What are you deciding to make a difference in? What are you deciding to do differently as this old something is perpetuating and showing itself in your world? What are you going to do with it? What's your new beginning? I can tell you that if you're cycling, what's happening is the reason that you're cycling is because there is more room for you to inject more love into whatever that situational cycle looks like. That can be a new beginning. We have all gone through things. We have all gone through things. I can respect that. Thank you for putting one foot in front of the other. Thank you for being on your journey. Thank you for taking the steps and choosing exactly as you did. Thank you for new beginnings. Thank you for death cycles. Thank you for rebirths. Thank you. It takes courage to be you. It takes courage to walk your path by your feet and your shoes. It takes courage. That taking courage every time that you decide to take one more step in courage and one more step in courage, what happens is that goes into the great humankind collective, and that helps all the rest of us. So thank you. Because every time you decide to help you, what happens is you help all the rest of us. You help people who may never even know your name in this life. So thank you for choosing your new beginnings. Thank you for allowing yourselves to grow. We'll talk about that on another episode. But right now, thank you for allowing yourself to be open to new experiences. These things are important. New experiences lead to level ups. Those are fun. I like level ups because then I get to realize more about my superpowers. I like level ups with other people because then you get to realize more about your superpowers and the power of them. That's powerful. In order to get to that place, you got to take that step. I can't take it for you. No one else can as well, regardless of what they tell you. It's up to you. This is when we decide, all right, new beginning. This is when we decide, all right, I don't want to be on that ship any longer. This is when we decide, all right, I'm ready to become more responsible with my creative power. New beginnings. When you decide on a new beginning, it is extremely important that you first realize that you're worth it for that new beginning and ultimately that new transmission, which will then give rise to that new reality. Reality is our reflection. Your reality is your reflection. And so what do you see in it? This is why we decide on new beginnings. Okay, started on that date, did some things, made a mistake, fell forward, tripped up, fell backwards, got my refinement, got catalyzed, deciding to do it different. So now I'm going to start on this date. Great. If you decide to switch the dates, just make sure that you honor the new beginning. Make sure that you recognize and realize and receive that you're worth it to make this new step, this new beginning. Don't let it become your default button. Let it be your activation. Our new beginnings are part of a beautifully entwined and intertwined experience called our lives. Life, death, rebirth. We can stick new beginning in any one of those. It's entirely up to us where we decide to see our new beginning. Like I was telling a client yesterday, hey, the thing that you've been holding over your own head, the thing that you just have not gotten to the point where you allow yourself to forgive, that thing, whatever that thing is, if your mother did that thing, if your kids did that thing, if your best friend did that thing, would you hold it so tightly and so pressurized and so unkindly over their heads the same way that you do your own? And therein lies a great opportunity for a new beginning. Therein lies a beautiful opportunity for you to level up. It's important to look at your new beginnings as sacred, but the way that we look at anything outside of ourselves as sacred is going to be in direct connection with the way that we decide to see ourselves, if not sacred. You see, you holding yourselves as sacred is what brings out the sacred in the reflection around you. You holding your new beginning as sacred is what creates sacred reflections around you. And so these new beginnings aren't just these. It's not just a decision to make a new beginning, to decide on a new beginning. There's so much more to the equation, but so much more that you're deserving of. And so what are your new beginnings? What are you deciding to change in this moment? What are you deciding to do differently in this cycle's expression that's shown up for you currently? We all know how it works. Different actions lead to different results. Why is it so easy for us to tell everybody that we love in this world that great wisdom, and why can it be so challenging to accept it for ourselves? New beginning. This new beginning, I want to accept that I'm better than what I was. This new beginning, I want to take different actions in the moments where I could feel a setback, a fallback, a trip up, a mistake, a catalyzation, a refinement moment. I want a new beginning in the realization of how powerful I am, and I also want a new beginning in the powerful realization of exactly how powerful you are. Because you deserve that. Not making these podcasts for me. I've already been through this training. Thank you, Patrick. Making these podcasts so we can get a message out here and help everybody else, because we're all in this together. And the quicker that we can all start leveling up, then let's see what happens. Humankind collectives, new beginning. I'm in. Sign me up. Who else is here for it? And so think about that. Think about your new beginnings. Think about your very beginnings. I'm sure there's going to be a Gemini that shows up on that chat thread that says something about, I am timeless and infinite and everlasting. And yes, on a deeper level in truth of the spiral, absolutely you are. but also right now, where we stand, where I've decided to jump from, it's new beginnings. So thank you. Thanks for being on this Sowing Fire podcast. I don't like to use the word follow. Follow me, follow us. I don't want to do that. But if you want to walk with us, you want to hang out with us, then you can find us on Facebook and IG at Sowing Fire Tribe. Sowing, Sowing. TikTok, it's Tia Lavoie. Tia_Lavoie. Thank you. Thanks for being a part of this today. Thank you for being a part of this first episode launch of the 3rd season of the Sowing Fire podcast. We're growing, and I know that if you just heard me say we're growing, then that can only mean that you're growing as well. All those reflections. Thank you so much. We will speak again real soon. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.